Hello and welcome. I am Pamela Haug, your Lexis research attorney. I'm so excited to be here today to show you the most effective way to search on Lexis Plus. But before we get started, I'll share a little bit about myself. I have almost a decade of experience teaching lawyers and law students how to hone their legal research and writing skills. In addition, I spent several years in private practice before joining Lexis. But most importantly, I was in your shoes not too long ago. I graduated from SLU with my JD MBA in 2015. So I am really excited to be able to help you as I know what it is to be in your shoes. Today, you will learn the most effective search method on Lexis Plus. We'll first look at a three-step process of search select filter. Then we will talk about how to generate search terms from secondary sources. And then we'll look at how to locate primary law. Finally, we will shepherdize to validate your authority and make sure your case law is still good law. By the end of today, you will be able to confidently use the resources on Lexis Plus to excel this semester. So, in order to do this, we will use a hypothetical today. Your client, Mr. Johnson, is on trial for murder. The prosecution wants to enter into evidence a declaration that the victim made right before he died that, quote, Mr. Johnson did it. You argue that this is hearsay and not admissible at trial. So, first, we want to identify what the legal issue is here. And we want to know whether this statement is hearsay that is admissible at trial. Next, we want to know our jurisdiction. You all have not yet taken evidence, but you will learn very soon that this is a federal issue. So, with that knowledge in hand, we will navigate to our Lexis Plus homepage in order to begin our search process. So, we will start with that three-step process of search select filter. And the reason we do that is because Lexis Plus is designed to make sure you find all the information you need. And that three-step process helps make the amount of content more manageable. So, today we'll start with secondary sources, as they will give you background and context on your legal issue. They're not binding authority, but will help lead you to that binding primary authority. So, today I'm going to start with the term hearsay. So, enter in our search term of hearsay. Next, we're going to select our category of secondary materials. Then we will filter to our jurisdiction, which we want to look at all US federal jurisdictions. And then we'll hit search and see what this pulls up for us. Okay, so we have quite a bit of information here, over 8,000 secondary materials. Now we want to move to the last step in our process, which is to filter. And I like to use this search within results filter, as you can enter any additional search terms or a search phrase to narrow your search. From our hypothetical, we know that the victim declared something as he was dying. So I'm going to type in dying declaration and see what this pulls up for us. Okay, so we went from over 8,000 results to about 175. So that's a great place to start with your research and to find an on point secondary source. So, the first thing that I like to point out when you are looking for a source on point is this what looks like map at the top of your source. And this is actually our search term maps. And you can see that the color corresponds with the search terms. Here we only have green for hearsay, but what you will do is use this to quickly scroll through the result to see if it's relevant for your search. Now we know that dying declaration is not included in this result, so we can keep scrolling. Okay, so looking at this result, we see both hearsay and dying declaration discussed pretty readily. And this looks pretty similar to what it is that we are looking at in our hypothetical. So let's click into this source. Okay, so here we are in our Weinstein's federal evidence. And this treatise is going to give you good background and context on the legal issue of hearsay and whether our victim's declaration will fall within one of those exceptions. So you can see that the search term maps is still available on the top here. But the first thing that you want to do is, of course, read your source to get the best understanding of your legal issue. Right off the bat, we see that the confrontation clause is important to this legal issue of whether hearsay is admissible at trial. And you can see that within our source, the primary authority is linked there for you. But as you read through the source, you're going to see specific terms appear again and again. And that is something that you'll want to take note of in your research, as this is going to help us generate our search terms in the next step of our process. One thing that I like to show is this term browse at the top. You can, of course, read the entire document from top to bottom, and I definitely encourage that. But you can also use this term browse in Lexis to quickly jump to the term which you want to read most about. So we really are interested in dying declarations and for a specific hearsay exception. So I've highlighted that term, and then I will hit the arrow, and it's going to take me to where that term appears in the document itself. So I like to use this to get context as to how this issue relates to this source. You can see we have 57 mentions of dying declaration, and it's just another way to be quick and efficient with your research. Okay, so that is a helpful look at a secondary source. And in addition to this source, I want to point out about this document on the right hand side. You'll see additional source information and then related content to this treatise and topic summaries. Topic summaries are great one stop shop documents for specific legal issues. And today, we know that the confrontation clause and the right to confrontation is a pertinent issue for our hypothetical just from the previous secondary source. So I'm going to select that right to confrontation topic summary and give you an idea of how this secondary source can help in your research as well. Okay, so at the top, we have a summary of our summary, both the practice area, jurisdiction, and context. But then we have some of the most important definitions and seminal cases of this legal issue. And you can see that all of those definitions and cases are linked directly here for you. So within seconds, of running our initial search and navigating to this topic summary, you have all of this very important information for that right to confront in criminal cases. And then again, seminal cases, which getting to and locating primary authority is going to be next in our process. But here you already have some great seminal cases related to that issue. Then you have statutes and rules and additional secondary sources linked for you. Then we have standards of review, again, with the primary authority linked there for you. So that was our topic summary. I think these are great secondary sources exclusive to Lexis and were super helpful for me as a 1L as I learned all of these new legal standards. So now let's talk about our second topic, which is how to generate search terms. Another reason to review secondary sources before beginning your primary law search is to refine your search terms. Often, those secondary sources reveal key terms of art related to your topic that you otherwise would not have known to employ as a search term. For our example of an out of court declaration, the admissibility largely depends on whether that statement comes within one of the hearsay exceptions set out in Rules 803 and 804 of the Federal Rules of Evidence. And adding some or a few of these search terms will get us to the relevant primary law quicker. So on Lexis Plus, you can click Run a New Search at the top from any location. And now that we have those additional search terms from our secondary source, let's try them out. So we saw that the statement made was a dying declaration, and it is a hearsay exception. Now we're going to select our category of cases. We're going to select our jurisdiction of all U.S. federal, and we are going to hit search and see what that pulls up for us. We have over 10,000 cases, which just shows you the great breadth of information that Lexis has available for you. But we want to move on to the final step in our process, which is to filter. And I, again, like to use this search within results filter. And from our secondary source search, we learned that whether or not the hearsay statement is testimonial will have an impact on whether that is admissible at trial. So let's type in testimonial and see how that filters our results. Okay, so we're down to 3,500. Now, I want to take a look at this first case, which is Crawford versus Washington. Okay. This case is one of the seminal cases which relates to hearsay and the exceptions to that rule. So, the first thing that I like to point out is our case summary. I use this case summary to orient myself to the case before jumping into that full opinion, as it provides the details of the case that I want to know. So we have the procedural posture, how that case moved through the court. Then we have the overview. This includes a factual overview of what happened in the case. Then we have the outcome. What did the court decide in this opinion? So again, use that as a good overview of the case before jumping into the full opinion. Next, we have our Lexis headnotes. And these are the most important topics of a case that have been pulled directly from the case and placed at the top here. And one of the great things about our headnotes is that they're not editorialized at all. So you can trust that the language you see is exactly what the court stated in its opinion. I like to use these headnotes to learn what the most important topics in a case are. And if they look on point to your hypothetical or your research assignment, then continue into that opinion. Okay, so I'm scrolling along. I'm seeing right to confrontation again, which we know is important for a case. We see that multiple times in this case. And then we also have mentioned hearsay several times. So this definitely looks like a case that's on point. I, of course, recommend continuing on to read the full opinion. So another great thing about reading your case on Lexis is that we have the ability to term browse in cases as well. As in the secondary source, you can select dying declaration and then navigate directly to that in the case. But using the term browse really helps you get to that information and then find additional primary authority that will help you with your research. Now I want to scroll up and point out a few of the methods to save and organize your research. I recommend that you create a folder for your brief once you begin working on it. So, this will help you organize your results and just really stay on top of your research. And the way that you do that is you'll click this folder button. And I have multiple folders already created, but I would hit choose a folder and then create new folder and then just type in brief, hit create, and then save. And then this case will be saved to that folder for eternity until you change it or delete it. And another good thing about performing your research in Lexis is that you can add highlights and you can annotate, you can add notes. Annotations and highlights will also be included in your saved folder. In addition to saving to a folder, you can print. In fact, Lexis has free printing at SLU. You all have two printers on the 11th floor in the lab that you can print for free. So I definitely recommend taking advantage of that benefit while you're in the school. I know that this semester and this year, in fact, has been a little different. Just know that that benefit is there for you, and when you're at school, you can do that. Next, you can download and then send to a Dropbox. So there are multiple ways for you to share and organize your research on Lexis. That was how to locate primary authority using those search terms that we generated from our secondary source search. The last step in our process, and the last thing I wanted to show you all today, was how to validate your research with Shepard's. And if you look on the right hand side here, you can see our Shepard's case card. And Shepard's is our Lexis exclusive citator, which will tell you whether or not your case is still good law. And it does that by providing a full subsequent history from the courts which have cited to your original case. Here's Crawford versus Washington. And we have what looks like a Q beside Crawford. And what that is means it has been questioned by one court. Think of this as the worst case scenario right off the top. So you know that at least one court has questioned this opinion or part of the reasoning within. However, looking below, you can see that there are over 3,600 positive treatments of Crawford. So, really, just if you click view the top citing reference, this is our reason for Shepard's signal. And this provides the case which questioned Crawford and then the reasoning behind that. So that's also helpful to know as you go into your research that you have that information right off the bat. Okay, so to run a Shepard's report, you simply click Shepardize document. Okay, So here we are at our Shepherd's Report for Crawford v. Washington, and we have over 20,000 citing decisions for this case. So you can definitely see that this is a seminal case. It's been cited by over 20,000 courts. But what this does is gives a full picture and gives a full treatment analysis of all of the courts which have cited to Crawford since its inception. And it's important to point out that only Shepard's provides this full treatment analysis. So you can see we have questioned, cautioned, and then distinguished by, criticized by, positive, neutral, etc. We're the only citator that will have those different breakdowns for you. So if you only wanted to look at the cases which treated Crawford positively, you will click on that filter and that will pull it up for you for that list of opinions. In addition to having this information about how your case has stood up over time, there is a table of authorities within your Shepherd's report. And think of this as the inverse of Shepard's, as these are all of the cases which the Crawford court cited in its opinion. So, this is just another way for you to expand your research and identify cases which may be helpful for your research. We have learned a lot today. We learned how to conduct an effective search on Lexis using that three-step process of search, select, filter. We also learned how to generate search terms from a secondary source and then how to locate case law. Finally, we learned how to Shepardize your results to confirm there's still good law. I appreciate you all joining me today. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. But thank you again for attending and have a wonderful day.